All right, buddy, welcome back to GSX 2019, live from Chicago. Chuck Harrell, SecurityGuideTV.com, ASISTV.org. My next contestant, what's your name, sir?
My name is Mark Mullison with Allied Universal.
AUS.com.
That's it.
Super easy to remember. And they have a giant display here. Make sure you check them out at the show. And you're with a very specific division, and you got a great title. What's your title?
I'm the Chief Information Officer.
Very good. And what is your offering is Helix?
Helios, yeah. We're really excited to talk about that. Just announced the product just about 60 days ago, and excited to be here. We're giving demos in our booth. It's a great platform that brings together people, data, and artificial intelligence in order to drive better outcomes for our clients.
Right. That's way over my teeny little Security Guide Radio brain, right? So you're going to have to tone it down for me and explain what that exactly means as applied to the Guard Force, because we're talking about the uniform guard business and how that works.
Sure. Well, you and a lot of viewers, I'm sure, are familiar with lots of different mobile guarding technology platforms that help support tours and do incident management and all of that sort of stuff. Helios does all that, but so much more. It's the next generation. And, how's it different? Why is it different? There are three big things that make it different. First is the data that we capture, all sorts of information about the security professionals on site, and what sort of business they're in, and what are their hours of operation, and do they have a loading dock, and how many bays, and what sort of ingress-egress security is there. So we capture all of this information, and you might be saying to yourself, well, that sounds like what everybody else does, sounds like a big database. What's unique about that? Well, there's a saying in the artificial intelligence community that goes, if you have the right knowledge representation, problem solving is easy. And there's a lot of truth to that. And so we've spent a lot of time organizing this information and representing that knowledge in a way that we can reason over it and make predictions about what's likely to happen. And so the data is the first differentiator, and the way that's represented, the knowledge is represented. The second differentiator is the artificial intelligence engine itself. And these are the algorithms that reason over that knowledge and understand not only what's likely to happen, but what to do in order to drive a better outcome.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Pretty exciting.
Right.
Pretty exciting. As great as that is, that's not the end of the story, because I say that because if, for instance, you know that a stock's going to double in the next 6 months, but you don't buy that stock,
that's right.
Information isn't worth
much,
right? So the last differentiator of the Helios product is a very powerful workflow engine that we can send those prescriptions, those recommendations into, and it becomes a virtual coach that makes sure that those recommendations are actioned by the security professionals or potentially by client resources or contractors at the right time. And so, there's power in all three of these things. There's power in the knowledge representation and the data, because you can do some great analytics and understand what's been happening and get your real-time situational awareness. There's great power in the AI engine, because if you're too busy to do that, it'll do it for you.
Right.
And it can see deeper than a person can. And there's great power in the workflow engine, because having a virtual coach that will prompt you, encourage you, make sure you're doing the right things at the right time, there's power in that too. But when these three things come together, as they do in Helios, that's where the magic happens and we drive better outcomes. And we're very excited about, we're seeing on average, depending on the site and the industry and so on, but we're seeing on average a 20% reduction in safety and security incidents.
Wow, that's fantastic.
At sites that are using the Helios technology. So it's really, really good news. We're super excited about it.
So when I hired Allied Barton, going way back in the day at Disney, you guys always were a little bit ahead of the curve on technology. Still are.
Yeah.
Apparently, right? And you always collected a lot of data, even back then.
Sure.
So the data you're collecting, let me see if I get this right, is becoming your learning part, your machine learning is the data. And once the data is learned by the machine, then we translate it into actionable items. That's the artificial intelligence part.
That's right, making the predictions about what's likely to go wrong at a site, and then understanding the prescription that you're going to apply in order to drive a better outcome.
This is brilliant. I mean, if the guard checks the fire extinguisher every week, and every week it's empty, and the client doesn't fix it, the prediction is, guess what? When there's a fire or something, we're going to have a problem.
Well, that's exactly right. If you have a lot of slips and falls in the cafeteria midday, it's going to recommend that we do something about that.
Yeah, that's great.
But the great thing about it is, because these algorithms are so sophisticated, they can see deeper than just the obvious. The obvious ones are good
Right.
because if you're too busy, you'll catch them. But we're clustering together information from all kinds of different sites all across the country and using that to understand things that are not nearly so obvious. And that's pretty exciting.
There's industry data
Yeah.
collectively among all the clients,
Yep.
and then there's site-specific data.
That's right.
Different things. Brilliant.
Exactly.
What's your name one more time?
Mark Mullison with Allied Universal. And come visit us at our booth, and we're giving demos of the Helios platform. I'd be excited to show it to you.
AUS.com. Back in a minute here at GSX 2019 live from Chicago with Chuck Harold, SecurityGuideTV.com, and ASISTV.org. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming on.